Hello, this is David at I Repair Fast. In this video, we'll be doing a screen replacement on the Asus Zendfone 2. This is part of our Nothing Left Out video series where we repair computers and devices from start to finish. Here we're going to be powering off the device. This is a good habit when we're working on any electronic device. It helps to avoid shock or power surges that could destroy power internal chips and backlight fuses. Not to mention not shocking yourself. The outer casing of this phone is extremely strong, and there I'm going to use a metal spudger to be able to open it. You need to make sure that you're being extra careful with the metal spudger, as it's a lot easier to mar up the back casing. However, you're going to need a strong tool, as a plastic one will more than likely break. As you see, it is a bit of a hassle even with the metal spudger to get it open. But once you get it kind of cracked, I switch over to a plastic tool to avoid any kind of damage from the metal spudger. And as long as you're careful, you should be able to get it out with not much problem. And here we're just going to take out the back screws of the back plate. They're just around the size. There's a couple in the middle, including this top one right here. This one is actually hidden underneath a sticker, so be extra careful. Now we're going to get our plastic pry tool. Here we're going to be using a guitar pick to get in between the back case and the screen. Once you get it underneath, it's pretty easy to get up. Be mindful that in the middle of the screen around the SIM trays, there are two strips of adhesive that kind of hold it down. I'll show you what I'm talking about once we get the phone opened. Right here on the sides of the phone, you'll see that the two strips of adhesive, one I knock loose, and I'm just going to straighten out a little bit. These are what's holding the back plate to either side of the SIM tray, holder, and battery right here on the back. And here, nature calls. Like I said, nothing left out. Now we're going to flip this connector up very carefully. They're very easy to break. Here I'm going to grab the plastic spudger to be able to get underneath this ribbon, but I notice that there's not a whole lot of play underneath the ribbon, so I decide to reassess and go for the connectors at the top, because if I loosen the battery, I have a little bit more play in the ribbon. You don't want to crank the ribbon or bend the ribbon if you can at all. There are 3 connectors up here that you need to take off to be able to get the battery removed. And here we're using a metal spudger just to see how much play that the battery has to be able to get underneath it. I realize with the daughter board being able to have a little bit of play, I'm probably going to remove that. But we're going to take an intermission here just to put it into the food dehydrator that we use to put an even heat around the entire phone. So that was a quick shot, but in reality it was about 10 minutes sitting in the dehydrator. And now I'm just going to attack the battery from the side with a plastic pry tool to get an adhesive off the battery and let it separate. Now we need to be really careful with putting anything in between the battery and the backing here because the lithium-ion batteries generally have a foil outer casing that you can easily rip, destroying the battery. Now we're removing the coax cable from the bottom right hand corner. In the top left hand corner there's going to be a small ribbon that's attached to the motherboard. We're just going to slide that ribbon out, and then we're going to try to get underneath the motherboard from the screw post on the bottom right hand corner. And we're going to use the metal pry tool to get at that also. And it's not terribly adhesive, so you should be able to lift it up pretty easily after getting underneath it. Alright, and here we have the two ribbons that come through the back plate from the LCD, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. You have the one that comes from the bottom, comes up through the middle, right here, and then the one that comes through the top, right here. So we need to be really careful when we're putting the ribbons through this back plate, not to cut or rip the ribbon in any way. They are extremely fragile. Now the screen itself is adhesed into the back of that back plate. So really it's just about getting a plastic spudger underneath there and trying to be careful. But as I'm noticing, it kind of cooled off. So we're going to take another intermission and put it back in the heater. So now that we have that heated up enough to get in through the adhesive, what we're going to do is we're going back to the plastic pry tool to get underneath the glass. I want to be extremely careful here as the screen's already broken and a stray piece of glass to the eye doesn't make anybody's day. And here I apologize that we were out of shot a little bit, but all I'm doing is taking the guitar pick and running it down the edges of the glass, being mindful of the ribbon at the top that we pointed out. Alright, we finally got the LCD separated from the backplate. Now, in preparation to get the new LCD on, all the adhesive that's remaining on the inside of the backplate, we're going to go ahead and clean off. I'm using a flat, straight razor to be able to just kind of slowly, carefully pull the adhesive up without messing up the plastic too much. You want to go very slowly and make sure that you are in the bevel of the corner so you're not taking plastic off, as that is where the LCD sits. You also want to make sure that you get all the adhesive off the side, as any kind of adhesive or glass that was stuck to the adhesive will cause the screen to sit lopsided, either causing it to not function or break. And here we're going to transplant the top speaker from the old LCD to the new one. It's not very zoomed in, but there's a little metal piece that's a speaker grate that has a speaker on the other side. And we're just going to try to keep the adhesive as intact on the bottom of that as we can so we can easily transport it without putting any adhesive down. If by chance you don't succeed in keeping the adhesive, you could always use something as easy as a very tiny amount of super glue around the very edges of the metal to keep it in place in the glass. If it sticks to your finger a little bit, don't worry. It happens to the best of us. So here we're going to go ahead and start applying the adhesive to the phone. We're using the 1mm red adhesive tape, and we're going to put it on the sides, top, and bottom to be able to hold the screen down. Now, before you fully adhese the screen to the frame, you want to make sure that you get these ribbons through the respective holes very carefully. They can rip extremely easily. And of course, you have the ribbon at the top and you have the ribbon at the middle. And just try to keep it off the adhesive until you get it set. I'm not going to run my finger along the sides of the screen. I just want to make sure that the screen's completely adhesed all the way around. Now that we know we have the screen on there well, and we have our ribbons through firmly, it's time to reverse our steps and put it back together. There's a small strip of adhesive on the bottom of that ribbon, and it'll stick back to the mid frame, just like so. You want to make sure you don't catch any of the ribbons or connectors under the motherboard when you're putting it down. Once you get the motherboard in, the battery goes in really simple. It still should have enough adhesive on the bottom to be able to just kind of push it down and have it stick. When reattaching the daughter board, you need to be very careful about getting the vibrating motor back into the plastic harness that was built into the phone. The bottom speaker just simply slides right in. As you can see, this coax connector can be a little tricky. It takes a little bit of finesse, and you definitely don't want to push too hard because you could ruin the connector. So we're just going to skip ahead just a little bit until we get to the end. Now the adhesive should still be on the back plate, and you shouldn't have to reapply it, but if you do, you're more than welcome to. I'm also just going to straighten out the screw holes just to make sure everything fits into place when I get the back plate on and I need to put the screws in. And now it's time to test the phone out. Everything's looking great. So I'm just going to pull the plastic off and we're all done. And that's start to finish how to fix the Asus Zenfone 2.